He was an All-American, four-time All-Big 12. Played in the National Football League with the Buccaneers and 49ers. We've had Aaron Lockett on the show, former Kansas State star, All-American. And he joins us on 365 Sports with Craig and Paul. And I'm David Smoak. Aaron, thanks for your time. Kansas State, TCU, both teams at the top of the Big 12. We know Kansas State's identity. What are your thoughts about what you've seen? I know they had the hiccup against Tulane, but what Coach Kleiman's done this year?
You know, I've been really impressed with him. I think Coach Kleiman finally has got everybody to buy in from the top down. Obviously, they're playing really good football. They've had some big wins on the road. But I don't think enough credit goes to Truman Carroll, the strength and conditioning coach, and his team. Done an amazing job over the summer, and I think we're starting to see the benefits of it here this season.
Do you think that, because we haven't had to see it yet, there hasn't really been a need, but that Adrian Martinez, if TCU can force him to pass, can do that without making the mistakes that plagued him at Nebraska?
Yeah, you know, for me, you know, what I've seen from Adrian, he's made good decisions. I think even OU forced him to pass sometimes, and he found his groove. Obviously, we have some senior receivers that really know the game well, so between Warner and Brooks and Malik Knowles, like, I'm comfortable, you know, from a fan standpoint of seeing them getting the balls in their hands. I think they can do exceptional things moving forward.
Aaron, you kind of touched on it there, but what have been your thoughts on how Adrian Martinez has entered the program, adapted, obviously found his niche, and seems to just really have a good thing going right now in the Little Apple?
Yeah, I think there's some similarities, obviously, between him and Colin Klein, and so it obviously helps him with Klein being the OC, seeing some of himself in Martinez, and I think he's let him grow into his role. Like I said, just watching him, I'm glad when he runs the ball. He's a really good football player. He can run the ball well, and he's made excellent decisions. And so I think he's up for the challenge. He's played big-time P5 football, so this is nothing new. Just another conference in a different color, but he's shown his worth to date.
Aaron, there are teams, for example, last year Baylor had their best season ever. They were 12-2, but they also won a lot of one-score games. Adrian Martinez came from a program where they lost him all the time. Kansas State's been able to win a game that was somewhat ugly, depending on how you look at it, but they won against Iowa State. They've been able to win the one-score games. What does that say about them?
Just they're relentless. I think they understand what the end goal is. I think, like I said, they're buying in as a team, and so they've got a lot of talent on their team, a lot of hidden talent. Obviously, that's Kansas State in general. Kind of like Oklahoma State. They always don't get the notoriety they deserve, but a lot of good football players over there. And so I just think they're putting together a program that's starting to come through in the clutch. And so this will be another test come this Saturday.
What do you think about this conference as a whole this year and how difficult it's going to be for anybody to win it?
Well, I think it's parity. I think obviously historically it's always been Texas and Oklahoma with most of the 4 to 5 star athletes, but kids are starting to make different decisions staying closer to home. You saw that with Baylor last year. Oklahoma State has a great quarterback after that's playing well. You had Brees last year at Iowa State. So I just think that, you know, kids are starting to make a decision where they don't want to sit, they want to play immediately. And so that's starting to give kids an opportunity to go to different schools.
Can you try and describe the impact that Deuce Vaughn's had on this program here over the last few years?
I mean, Deuce is just a steady Eddie, right? He's a home run guy every time you can give him the ball. He showed his receiving skills. I think this year he's showing that he can block with the best of them. And so for Deuce, is just, you know, the more opportunities he gets, I think the more he'll show you his value. And so obviously I've been impressed. I've been around guys like Deuce in my past, but just seeing what he can do day in and day out, knowing that the defense is going to key on him has been remarkable. And so for me, just a fan of him, just like watching him play. Very durable, always got his head in the game, and you can tell he's a coach's son.
Aaron, there's no question the Big 12 last summer with the Texas OU story and the SEC initially kind of rocked, and then they recovered with the 4 teams they've added. And it's a conference that's kind of been through this the last 10 or 12 years. What do you see now? It seems like, again, we know how big and the logo and brand and the history and tradition of Texas and Oklahoma, but what does it say about everybody else that's kind of seemed like they've raised their game in the last couple of years?
Well, I think the biggest thing with the Big 12 now is you've got more exposure and awareness. And so when you're adding a Cincinnati and a Houston, you're giving them an opportunity to get a different type of recruiting pool. So West Virginia being outside of the region of the Big 12 started to open that up. But now I think we can compete with some of the Big 10 when it comes to recruiting. And so I think everybody, once again, took it as a challenge, looking for an opportunity to showcase that they can play with the OUs and the Texas of the world. And so even though they not have the 5-star or top 10 recruiting talent, they're putting together good products on the field, and most of those guys are starting to translate to the next level, which is amazing for the Big 12 right now.
Why does K-State seem to have Oklahoma's number, you think?
Man, if you think about it, I mean, a lot of OU coaches came from the K-State tree. And so whether it's the Stoops or the Manginos or the Venables, and I think it's just one of those things is where we just play sound football against Oklahoma. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely something that Kleiman's taken to heart. I know Snyder took it to heart, and so it's just one of those where I wouldn't say it's a rivalry, but it's just one of those opportunities for us to really get some national exposure. They're always in the top 10, and so for us, it's always a game that can propel us to the top 10 if we can win it.
I don't think he wants to know. You don't,
Yeah, they don't want the secret recipe.
You don't ask a genie how he gets his magic. You just make a wish.
Yeah. My bad, Aaron.
That's a great point, but they sure have. And there was a time when they gave Texas all sorts of problems as well. But then again, you were good. I mean, Kansas State has been good. In fact, back in the 90s, early parts of the 2000s, fantastic when you were a part of it. What was it like to play for Bill Snyder?
Bill Snyder was ahead of his time. I mean, obviously a lot of us coming in didn't understand some of the things that he was asking of us, but he was preparing us for life. And ultimately that translated to us being very efficient on the field. And so I think where Bill was really excellent was knowing his talent. And so for me as a 5'7", 4'2" receiver, he gave me the chance to go deep time and time again. With Quincy Morgan, he used him in the screen game. And so Bishop allowed him to do the QB run game. Like he used the strengths that you had as an athlete and he used it to your advantage. And I think for that, it just allowed us to be very successful at that time and point.
Aaron, you also were a dynamic All-American punt returner. Is there any, do you have to yeah, you were. Do you have to have a little bit of a screw loose to be able to become 11 guys are coming at you, or at least 9 or 10 are coming right at you and the ball's in the air and you can't really look at them?
If you don't have a screw loose, you got to be desperate to get on the field. There's got to be something in you that wants to make a play. I honestly think that being a returner gives a lot of athletes the opportunity to be themselves. They're not confined within running out and waiting to get the ball. As soon as they get the ball in their hands, they can make it go. And so if you look at returners, obviously with special you at K-State, I mean, with Knowles and Brooks, I mean, we rocking again. Those guys are amazing back there.
Yep.
And so every time they touch the rock, it's a chance they can go to the house. And so it's just something about being a returner at K-State that just lifts you up just enough to where you can make a difference in any given game.
Do you, as a returner, have to develop a Jedi sense of this guy is 2 yards away? How do you even practice that?
It's like playing tag. Just don't let them touch you. You just got to get loose. You just got to know. Obviously, there are schemes, right? And so if you can get past the first wave, if you think about it, you're going, the opposite direction of everybody coming through. So if you can pass that first wave, then there's an opportunity for you to hit the sideline and then get vertical. And so I think, like I said, Kansas State has just put some really good athletes back there, and it's really worked well. But I don't want to discredit all the other 10 people on the field that's taking pride in making sure that they can get their block. It's man on man. If you can make sure your man doesn't make the tackle, then all you got to do is beat one man and you're to the house.
Yeah, it's a K-State thing. It's also a Lockett family thing as well, given the history.
Oh, man.
Aaron, just curious. I mean, obviously it's been fun to see what they've done so far, but as you know all too well, there's still a bunch of games to be played. They've got a terrific opponent coming up this weekend in TCU, who is sitting there at top 10 in the country right now. Obviously a huge opportunity for the Wildcats. What are your thoughts heading into this one?
And TCU is really good. Like, if you really sit down and watch them play, offensively, between Barber and Johnston and Miller and Dugans, like, they can run the ball. That running back is a real deal. And so for K-State, it's going to be a challenge. Right, they're going to have to make sure that they can play man on man when needed. They're going to have to make sure they contain the box. But I'm impressed with TCU. And then defensively, obviously they're fast and running around. And so once again, I think it's just you got a lot of Fort Worth, Dallas kids are starting to stay home, and so they're starting to build it up a little bit. And so now you're seeing TCU come around with all of the talent that historically Texas would have pulled from Dallas.
Darren Sproles or Deuce Vaughn?
What are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Are they actually just long separated twins at different ages?
You know what? They actually have they have some similarities, but their game to me is totally different.
Okay.
So obviously I played with Darren. Darren has that 1-2 immediately, and extremely powerful, but Deuce gets vertical really quick. And so he's got a lot of wiggle on the second level. And so I think Deuce obviously had a chance to catch the ball a lot more than Darren, but Darren was great in the screen game. I've seen Deuce run out routes and slants and Texas routes and option routes as a running back. And so both super effective. Obviously because of their size, people immediately compare them, but both have been productive for Kansas State. And so glad that Deuce is doing what he's doing, and I'm rooting for him every time he's on the field.
Yeah, Aaron, I interviewed Sean Lee one time, and I asked him about how Darren Sproles, when he was at the Eagles, had just befuddled the Cowboys. Like, they could not do it. And he said he literally spent what would amount to weeks at a time, if you amount, like, in the offseason, trying to learn how to react to Darren Sproles, and it took him forever. And then he even said, like, I made a couple tackles on him, and it may just be because he's, in his 30s now, but before he's like, they had no way to figure him out. He would kill them.
There's a reason he played 15 plus years in the NFL.
Right.
Like it's just talent, hard to describe, but he's just extremely talented, gifted, driven, strong as an ox. I don't think people realize that about Darren. Darren is super strong. Darren will get under and throw 405 on the bench like it's nothing. And so when you put that into that frame, along with his tenacity to make plays, you got a superstar.
Aaron, last thing for me for you, just looking ahead at the Big 12. I mean, it looks like Texas and Oklahoma, after the big surprise last summer, it looks like they're probably going to be around through the end of the deal, so for a couple of more seasons. Obviously, we know about the 4 teams coming in next year. Looking at the future of this conference, just what are sort of your thoughts on the major changes that are in store, but also the little bit of a shakeup overall?
I think the Big 12 is in a good position. I think they're playing really good football. I think they get a lot of credit and people enjoy it. Obviously, like I said, the team's coming in with, Cincinnati's playing really good football. They've got some talented kids. U of H, they're not winning some of the games this year that they historically won, but they've obviously got some talent there, which I think will be helpful. And then so for OU and Texas, obviously OU's got to turn the corner, right? They've got to get comfortable with their new coaching staff and get some players in place. And for Texas, I don't know. Texas is hit or miss, right? Obviously, they've got some talent. I don't know how long they can retain it just because you got to win games. And so, I think the Big 12 is really in a good spot. Comfortable watching Big 12 games, whether it's Iowa State. I'm happy to see KU finally get it together and come around because that makes it more competitive overall. And so they've done a good job. And so I think the Big 12 is really on the up right now.
Kansas State, Aaron, as you know, has been close. Very close to being at the very, very top, the 98 team with what happened. Michael Bishop, you're on that team in the game with A&M. And then 03, what was it? 2010 or 11, whatever year that was, 12.
11.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Baylor had the goal line stand to Colin Klein.
Yep.
They've been so close. How much hunger is there to get, obviously, to win it all or just get to that next level?
For all of us ex-players, we're extremely hungry for it, right? Because we deserve it. I think we've got what we need to have in place. We just got to finish. You need everything to fall right. And so I think, like similar to Baylor last year, like it can happen, right? And so you just got to have the right pieces in place. A lot of us ex-players, continue to invest into the program, give advice where we can, make sure you show up, make sure you're rooting them on. All of that matters. And so Kansas State is getting there. Like I said, we've had the 10-1, 11-1, 10-2 seasons, and so we just got to win that big game consistently just to get that opportunity.
Hey, man, Aaron, we appreciate your time. You were spectacular in your career. Are you still an agent? Are you still in that business?
I am. I'm an NFL agent. I am. And so here's the reason I watch a lot of football.
Oh, man.
At their scouting,
I am.
right?
I'm enjoying it. Yep. This is officially year 2 for me. So get an opportunity to go see a lot of these kids play and, I have a good knack for seeing what transitions to the next level. So just building trust, building it the right way, and I'll be here for a long time.
Hey, man, if you're ever swinging through Waco to check out some Baylor Bears or something, let us know, and we'll get together.
You've got some really good players out there. You really do. Excited to see. I'm waiting to see Tevin Williams get on the field.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
He's an Oklahoma State champ. He's a 102-meter guy. Excited to see him. Looking forward to your tight end, your backup tight end right now out of Cypress, Texas.
Yeah, Dabney, yeah.
He's the real deal.
Yep.
Drake is going to be good. And so just excited to see some of those players. I know some of them personally, but just waiting on their chance to see what they can do when the light shines.
Does your ability to, or does your history as a player, does that help you in the relationships trying to gain clients?
I probably gained some trust. I mean, the fact that I went through an All-Star game, played T5 football, went to the combine, got drafted, did the practice squad, did the active roster, got cut. I mean, at least I can relate to what they're about to go through, right? And so from a conversational standpoint, yeah, that definitely helps. And then obviously your main head is your agent, talking with personnel and scouts and owners. And so just showcasing that side of it. But obviously it helps a little bit that I can speak their language.
Aaron, thank you for speaking your language with us. We appreciate your time. Great segment, buddy. Good to have you on.
All right. Wish you guys the best of luck.
You too. Former K-State All-American, played on the 98 team. I think his last year was an 01, four-time All-Big 12. Tyler is his nephew, who plays for the Seahawks, has been in the league for, 8-9 years. And, of course, his brother as well, Kevin, and just a family that has fed Kansas State football.
By the way, Tyler's on my starts tonight on